Yeah, we're good.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. I know you guys missed me a lot last week, so I am back. You don't have to deal with two Stony Brook people having conversations. So you're very welcome. I apologize for missing a week, but here we are. So I put in the little chat on Sleeper that I was going to explain what happened with the schedule. So for whatever reason, Sleeper likes to make your schedule your entire division first, then the entire opposite division. So the first 6 weeks, Penn State was playing Penn State, while Stony Brook was playing Stony Brook. We did it that way the first year, maybe the first 2 years. I don't remember, but Stony Brook got really upset about that because they used to tell us that they were better than the Penn State group, and so they had to play all these good teams right away. It turned out to be a wash, but Stony Brook disliked it. I did not realize until this week that for whatever reason, instead of reverting to the schedule the way it was last year, that it reverted to this like Penn State first, then Stony Brook, then back to Penn State. So what I did was I took the schedule as it was and just kind of flip-flop weeks. So there shouldn't be any mistakes, but for the first 3 weeks, you'll play your own division. The next 3 weeks, you'll play the opposite division. And then it goes 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, something like that. So that it's a little bit more interchangeable. I did not realize until this week when I saw that I was playing Mitch that I was like, crap, this is wrong. And I went to go look. That is what happened today with all the scheduling craziness. Nothing should really be affected by it other than the week you play a certain team. You still play the same amount of Penn State games and you play Stony Brook games. There's 7. You play 7 of each. So you play everyone in your division and then everyone on the other side, and then you play a few more people multiple times. I think that covers it, right?
Yeah. I don't even know if we had to talk about it too much, but
okay. Well, if anyone sees a glaring issue with their schedule, and that doesn't mean like you're playing Sean and you're upset about it. I mean like you're playing Danny 4 times. Let me know because that shouldn't happen.
I'm playing Sean next week, so
yeah, that's not an issue. That is just how the schedule worked out. Anyway, I think we can move on up and start talking about last week's game.
Yeah. I picked a very bad game of the week. It was a 40-point blowout. So, off to a great start. Yeah, I think Mitch's team really played a lot better than I thought they would. I think when I did this, also Mitch didn't have Baker, so he didn't have a second quarterback. So it might have been a little different back then. But either way, I think the positive thing for him is the running backs look good, which I wasn't expecting this year at all. So I definitely thought Tom had an advantage at running back, which was the exact opposite of what happened.
Sure. And, I think that Mitch's team is really interesting. If A.J. Brown gets his way and they start giving him the ball, I think Mitch's team is pretty scary. Now, Jamal Williams got hurt, but Baker looks okay. Rashad White looks fantastic, I think. And I'm sad I gave him up, but that happened. On the other side, you have a guy who really is Packers focused in some ways, and like Jordan Love looked good again. Drake London had a touchdown. Like there were some good things on that side. Odell looked really good for like 2 possessions and then got hurt, which is always scary. Purdy is Purdy. I guess he wishes he started Russ or even CJ Stroud, who I thought looked fantastic in that loss. And, again, not this game, but Richardson scares the crap out of me. My man needs to stop getting hit. Every quarterback needs to slide. I was watching the games with Trevor, and just like anytime a quarterback got hit, I was like, come on, like slide always. The only quarterback that slid in like the whole day was Zach Wilson, and like Zach Wilson doesn't do anything else right, but like the dude slides. Otherwise, like the Jets need to give Breece Hall the ball like 25 times a game. I don't understand this 4 rushes, and neither does he. He tweeted about it, and he's very upset. So Jets gave the ball to Brees Hall. Also, Algier didn't score the touchdowns, but, Mostert looked great on his bench. Jones being hurt hurts Tom, but, I think Tom still showed some okay things, and Mitch, I think, looks good.
Yeah, I think they should both be okay moving forward. Not too worried about either of them. I guess I don't think the Jets ran. It was just weird. Like they just thought Zach Wilson was gonna do things. I guess because they just like Dalvin didn't run either. So I just don't get it. But I mean, they were down, I guess. But
Dalvin got stripped by the best player in football, like easily. Not easily the best player, but easily stripped, and that was a problem. Because I don't care what anybody says. I think Mika is that best player in football now. I think he's the best defensive player in football because he does everything. And I will continue to call him Mika, even though I know that's not how you properly say his name. I think we can move on to the next game.
Yeah, next game was Skullcap versus Lamb Chop. Another bad game. This was a 70-point blowout. Lamb Chop's team's just looking rough right now. I think he has two good running backs, which is more than most people in the league can say probably at this point. But other than that, it's just kind of rough. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like Tennessee's got enough juice in the passing game, and then Cup being hurt obviously hurts. He's kind of carried Lamb Chop's team the last few years, so just rough on that side. And then the usual from Skullcap. Travis Kelce not quite back yet, but I'm sure that's coming soon.
So I mean, starting with Lamb Chop's team, again, I like the running back situation there. I actually really still like the quarterback situation there. Derek Carr is 2 touchdowns away from having a great game last week, like fantasy-wise. So, like, that doesn't super concern me. Derek Carr put up 10 without a touchdown. Like, that's fine. Joe Burrow and the Bengals need to figure things out, just in general. But, he put up 16. Like, that's the low end for Burrow still. Sean, while Sean looked great again, there are some scary things on Sean's part. Chubb is done. Eckler has no timetable to return. Sean, we've always said, is the best team, but doesn't have all this depth. And now he needs to use that depth that he doesn't have that much of. Kelce, without that touchdown, didn't really see too much the other day. He got targets, but no catches. Mike Evans just had a day for himself. And we're talking about his game. I did not tell Jake that Lamin was coming, but welcome, Lamin.
Hello, Jake. Nice to meet you for the first time.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, man.
We're discussing your game.
Oof. I wouldn't.
So how did you feel it went, Lamin?
You ever go into a test in high school and you're like, man, I studied for this, and you get it back and it's a 30?
Yes.
That's how I felt.
Every AP calculus exam I ever took.
Yes, that's exactly how it felt. So, I mean, I have people who can't catch. They also can't run or throw. Just ignore, this is the puppy right here, so it's going to get a little... but yeah, my team is, it's a fire sale right now. I know that's funny because Jake just tried to trade someone with me and I rejected it because I'm not good at trades or responding. Trev just sent me one, but I mean, we're not calling it tank, but I feel like the Jets or Mets, no offense to the New York boys.
And I think you're still 2 weeks away from that. I think maybe Cup comes back in 2 weeks and there's something there, maybe. But we were just saying we don't hate the running backs. I don't hate the QB. You put Cup there. Knox is okay. Maybe you get to go. This. No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're underwater. and static, and it's like a bad radio connection.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't me, so I muted for a while.
Oh, I saw. Now that he's muted, I can hear perfectly. But yeah, I think we've covered Lamon's game. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Our special guest. Oh, good. It's my game we get to talk about. This is a problem. Yeah. Oh, Lemon left.
That's all right. Your game. Yeah. Another disappointing week for Christopher. I guess you didn't really need the second quarterback. You didn't really do much for you. Yeah, I don't know. You're just not getting any production from all the 15 running backs except the one you didn't start. So that's your big problem. Lawrence had a bad week. Wouldn't expect that moving forward. So yeah, I guess bad management, kind of. I mean, I don't know how you start Josh Dobbs over your two guys, but I guess he should have started. I could have seen starting Brian Robinson in some cases, I guess. But I could see not starting him too. So I guess between those two, you might win, maybe. I don't know.
With Dobbs, that's an extra like 15 points. And if I start Lockett over DJ Moore, if I, have a tight end that gives me a point, my tight ends both had the exact same score of 0.7. So that's really good. Things are bad over here at Najee time. And part of it is poor management, but like part of it also feels like, yeah. What's crazy is if I didn't trade for Garoppolo, I would have started Dobbs. I thought about Lockett. Like, I thought about some of these guys that ended up doing pretty well. Brian Robinson I always think of, but I think I'll probably start him next week either way, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
But, yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence putting up 10. And he didn't look terrible. The amount of throws he made in the end zone where like 1 foot was out of bounds, he had at least 3 touchdowns that he either let it go just a little too much or receiver couldn't get 2 feet in bounds. I know Zay Jones had 1, Ridley had 1. And it's fine. 0-2, like I kind of just said with Lemon, it doesn't mean super much, but 0-4 does. So I've got about 2 weeks to beat Mitch and whoever else, and Trent got on the board. Trent looked okay. This league proves every year that it's going to be close and tight, and it's never really one team usually blows out in the wins column, and some losses column, but the playoffs are always pretty close. But yeah, this was not a great week for me. And we can move on to your game.
Yeah, my game was high scoring, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we could have seen that coming after I dropped 50 on Thursday. But yeah, I don't know. Great game for us. Had a couple guys that didn't do much. Ayuk got hurt. Barkley got hurt. So that's not great. But wide receiver depth, I'm not too worried about. I have some guys in case Ayuk's not playing this week. Not too worried about that. Barkley getting hurt, kind of another story. I mean, I have enough for now, but not really at the same time. But I don't know, just scored a lot this week. Fields is a little worrying for me. On the other side, not too worried about anyone too bad. I mean, Chase, I assume, eventually turns it around. I guess Montgomery injury is a little annoying for Taint Grease just because he doesn't have any backups. But overall, he should be okay.
And I'm not understanding this Taint Grease. He just put Keenan Allen and Derrick Henry on the trade block. At that point, is he tanking? Like, what is he doing with that? Because it looks like he apparently offered Mitch A.J. Brown for maybe those two in some way, shape, or form. Like, is he running with Dowdle as a starting running back? Like, I'm not sure what's happening in the Taint Grease mind. Because Cam Akers is now, I don't know. I don't understand. It's 2 years in a row this man has been like healthy and fine, and they're just healthy scratching him, and he's on the trade block. And it looks like the coaching staff didn't know that either, which is weird. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about Fields. Barkley's injury doesn't look too bad for you. I've never been big on Ayuk, but that's fine. I do think Demon's injury is really not great for Taint. Also, like Jamar Chase is in kind of a similar boat to Joe Burrow. Like you assume they turn it around, but they look at him and only screen passes, it felt like, in that game. Like he got 5 passes for 31 yards and he got 3 or 4 screen passes. It's like, I know Chase is electric with the ball in his hands, but he's also electric everywhere. I know we threw 2 touchdowns to T. Higgins, which is nice. Keenan Allen went off, which is great, but you don't play the Tennessee secondary every day. And so, this was a good game. You showed out. Some of your injuries are scary, but I think you'll be fine. Kirk Cousins has shown that he is the guy, and I probably should have traded for him when you and I had something pretty close to worked out. I did not, and here we are. And maybe we'll come back to that because that trade involved Jahmyr Gibbs, and so you need a running back, I need a quarterback. Let's make things happen. But anyway, well, it involved the 5th pick, which became Jahmyr Gibbs, I guess technically.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah, and we can move on to Biondi and Trevor. I put my faith in Trevor this week, and as always, it did not work. Although he played really well, Biondi just went out of his way to be a menace. Biondi's team is really interesting. Like he said right away, Devontae Adams paid off. Now, I don't know if that's true because Lockett outscored him this week, but Hawkinson scores 2 touchdowns, which is great. Gabe Davis gets in the end zone. Anthony Richardson, as I've already mentioned today, scares the absolute crap out of me, but did score 2 touchdowns. Biondi looked good this week, but it didn't feel like a sustainable good. And I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if I'm hating based on his season last year, but Adams scored a touchdown. Hawkinson scored 2. Gabe scored 1. Olave had 86 yards and 6 or 7 catches. Kenneth Walker scored 2 touchdowns. I don't know how much I have faith in all those guys to score pretty frequently for Biondi. And so that worries me. On the other side, Puka Nacua is the pick of the draft. Trevor read one article that said he was going to be good and picked him in every league known to man, and so far it's worked. Garrett Wilson had a beautiful touchdown. Danny Jones was the QB of the week, even though he just still looks awful half the time. And the Giants are a wild team right now. But, Biondi 2-0, that rebuild happened real quick. And Bijan Robinson is that man. And everything I said negative about Biondi's team, I expect Bijan to score 20 a game. So, the best running back in the league right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you just really don't like Richardson, but I think he's going to, every time he plays, he's going to score fantasy points. If you look at the stat line, it's ridiculous because he played half a game and scored 17 points.
Sure, but he played the Texans, who don't have a great defense, and also he doesn't slide. He gets hit every time, and he makes really some scary decisions with the arm, but he gets hit, and it terrifies me. Has no one, people haven't seen Cam Newton's career? Cam Newton was one top 5 quarterback in the league who got hit every play and went away. There are other guys who didn't have the size who played 3 months, like RG3, who was trying to get the Jets to sign him, which is crazy, but anyway.
Yeah, I think both teams had a really good week this week. Not sure it projects out for either of them quite as well as they did this week, but Daniel Jones not scoring 31 every week, and like we talked about on Biondi's side, pretty much everyone scored a touchdown. So, but I think both teams will be decent enough. I think both of Trevor's receivers are injured, but we could talk about that when the upcoming games come up too.
Yeah. Moving on, last game was Danny versus Cam. I mean, this game kind of went the way everyone thought it would. The one thing I really do want to talk about that really doesn't have much to do with this game, but I think Zay Flowers looks absolutely fantastic. I know he didn't go off or do anything crazy, but he looks great in Baltimore, and I just wanted to put that out there. And then Danny is still in kind of rebuild mode. Bryce Young looks pretty okay so far. He's got some QB woes. That Kenny Pickett situation at quarterback is not great. I know he's the third, but anyway, Pickens was good this week on Danny's bench. Danny's still got pieces and Danny's still building. If Rashawn Johnson hopefully takes that next step that I think he will at some point in time. And then, Cam is really good. I don't know if I think Cook is as good as he was this week. But Cam's QB situation's fantastic. Cam's wide receiver situation's pretty damn good. And I always like that Cam never has Diggs as his wide receiver one. He always has him in some random spot, which is always fun because I'm like, I'm just playing Christian Kirk this week. And I'm like, oh, no, Stephon Diggs is playing in the flex. And so anyway, but yeah, no, I think Cam is a top team, and Danny is still in a little bit of getting out of the gutter, and they went, this game went as expected.
Yep, I think the Chubb injury helps Cam's team a decent amount because he stashed Ford, and that helps because it seems like Ford's going to get a lot of work. I mean, apparently they might get Kareem Hunt. I don't know how much Kareem Hunt has left, I guess, in my opinion, but I'm sure Jerome Ford's not the biggest guy, so I'm sure he'll get some work at the very least.
I mean, Kareem Hunt, just that signing, not necessarily that it's Kareem Hunt, but the signing in general scares me. I never like when you go out and get someone new. It kind of shows that who you have there you don't trust enough to play. Anyway. And because it's not like they're signing prime Adrian Peterson. Kareem Hunt was very good for a while, but again, like you said, they didn't sign him back for a reason. Now that Chubb is gone, they want him back, so that always scares me. But this week you went 5-1. The only game you were wrong were Big T. Cam and I both went 4-2. We both picked myself to win, and then I picked Trevor, and he also picked Big T. So as of right now, you are ahead, which is, I think, the first time since we've done the podcast that you've been ahead in that pick. So we'll see how this week goes. I haven't seen your picks. I don't know if you've seen mine, but that's pretty fun. And then standing-wise, both sides have 2 2-0 teams. Both sides have 2 1-1 teams, and both sides have 2 0-2 teams. So it's interesting. Come maybe next week or 2 weeks from now, standings start to actually matter.
Yeah, nothing too big right now. So, all right, we can move on to the rankings this week. We both have Sean. I did have some trepidation on Sean. Just the Eckler situation scares me a little bit. It seems like he's kind of, I don't know. It seems like he's not. It seems like he can play and he's choosing not to. Almost. At least that's my read on the things. It seems like he's not happy with the contract situation. So I just don't know when that works itself out or if that works itself out. And then losing Chubb, too, that makes it pretty thin at RB because Madison has not been that guy.
Yeah,
but he's still number one. So
yeah, I mean, he's still number one. He still has a great QB situation. I mean, if Mike Evans goes off and scores 26 points for you, you're in pretty good shape. But yeah, I mean, CMC is still great. Travis Kelce's still there. He still deserves the one spot. I think Chubb and Eckler, it's a scary situation for him. I think, he wouldn't be in a bad spot to try and get something at RB. But again, I don't know what he has to give up at this point in time. I like Ridley still. Like, he's in good spot at wide receiver. But, yeah, I think Sean is clearly still number one. Number two, we both have Biondi, another 2-0 team. Biondi is good, and Biondi is still going to be good. And, I still don't love his QB situation the way you do. Especially with Richardson in concussion protocol. I don't know what he does. I guess Desmond Ridder becomes QB2, which is fine. Devontae is in concussion protocol, which I don't love, but that's kind of a 1 week thing. Running back, Biondi might have the best one too in the league right now. Wide receiver, Biondi is in okay shape, but I think deserves that number 2 spot, especially Hawkinson at tight end is a start every week kind of guy. So I think Biondi's in pretty good shape there.
Yeah, definitely on Biondi. Yeah, I don't know. I like the quarterbacks. I might be falling a little bit, I guess, more on Deshaun. I don't know. He just seems different. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe that's just the defenses they've played, but we'll see as it goes on.
All right.
We have different number
So now-
threes.
Yeah, so we'll do yours because yours is crazy. So at number 3, you picked Down with the Sickness, aka Taint Grease, which I kind of miss when we called him Taint Grass, even though we knew his name was Taint Grease. But anyway, I think this is crazy. I don't know what he's doing at RB2. I guess Demont is still possibly going to play. I don't know. Chase doesn't look like Chase, and the Bengals don't look like the Bengals. But Keenan Allen put up a great week. Do I expect that from him that frequently? No. Derrick Henry, had some decent runs, but kind of looked a little lost in some places as well. I don't see it from Taint as much as maybe others. I think the depth is really scary there. He only has 2 QBs, which he's got 2 good ones, but again, a little scary there. I mean, I hate his bench, and I don't know what he's doing with Henry and Keenan. I don't know if he's trying to get younger. I don't know if he's trying to package them for somebody big time. But yeah, I don't see where he's number 3, even though he had a very good week this week.
I think he deserved. I think he's second in points right now. Total points right now. Actually, he's third in total points or fourth. Yeah, after me. So, but I don't know. He's been consistently good. I think he scored a lot of points, and Chase has done absolutely nothing, which I can't imagine continues this season. RB2, I think he can find a stopgap for a couple weeks until Montgomery's healthy, and then he should be okay there. And then I think he has a pretty big advantage at quarterback, which I value a lot. So.
No, I think that's fair. But even if he finds a stopgap from Montgomery, are we thinking Montgomery's a real RB2 that's going to be a start every week RB2 guy?
I think he's fine at RB2. I don't know. I don't see a problem with it, but
fair enough. So I had Taint down at 6, just so everyone else knows. We're following Jake's list, but I had him at 6. So Jake's number 4 is Cam. Cam was my 3rd. I think Cam's QB situation is fantastic. I like Cam's RB situation. Like I said, Cam's wide receiver situation is good. Evan Ingram feels like he is a start kind of guy. As like you said, Ford now being a real player for the Browns has a huge impact. I think Cam's problem has been depth. Ford makes that a little easier. I don't love his wide receiver depth, but he's got 3 solid guys. As long as Cam's team stays healthy, and particularly the wide receivers stay healthy, I have no issue with Cam being, a top 4, top 3 team here. Even if one of those QBs goes down, I love his 3rd. I love Sam Howell as your QB3. So I think Cam is. I almost had Cam at 2, but Biondi put up so many points last week. I was like, I'll give it to Biondi.
Yeah, no, I like Cam's team a lot. Cam doesn't like his team a lot, so maybe that factored into my ranking of him. But I guess most people don't like their own team that much, so maybe that shouldn't matter as much. But I agree with what you said. He's pretty solid everywhere. Looking back on it, maybe I have him and Tank Grease switched, but that's not the way it went this time, so it's all right.
Yeah, and so like I said, I had him at 3. That was your 4. Now it's time. I don't know what you were doing before you made this list, but this next ranking is absolutely insanity. At 5, you have me, who I think in total has put up like 140 points. Like, I think Sean this week beat me in 2 weeks. Like, it's pretty close. So please explain yourself.
I don't think there's that much to explain about it. You're pretty deep everywhere. I can't imagine your RBs stay where they've been. I mean, Josh Jacobs has scored under 10 points every single game. He averaged like 17 points last year. So that seems like it has to turn around eventually. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I am a little worried about your tight end situation. I don't really love what's going on there. Jefferson, big advantage on pretty much everyone other than Tyreek Hill. Yeah.
How do you say good things about my team, and then the one negative you give me is the absolute craziest thing ever? Jefferson is an advantage against everyone but Tyreek Hill. That's what you said all year last year, and we watched as Jefferson was head and shoulders better than Tyreek by the end of the season. Do not get caught up in this Tyreek Hill nonsense. He is a great number 2 receiver in the league. He's just not number 1. Best players in the league are Jefferson and Parsons, and that is it. No one else comes close. Everyone else should go away. And I'll throw Mahomes as number 3.
Jefferson's the number 4 wide receiver right now.
Yeah, right now. Stop. He hasn't scored a touchdown. He's put up 40 points. Sure. That's not going to continue.
I don't think he's a huge advantage over Tyreek Hill. You think he's a huge advantage over him? I think they're pretty close.
Season, yeah. Not even. Plus, he's a lot cooler and does fun commercials now. Biondi I told Biondi the other day, if you offered me 6 first, I wouldn't take it for Jefferson. I'm just it's what it is. He's my boy. But my team is scary bad in many, many ways. QB2 is a problem. Tight end is a problem. Wide receiver 2 is a problem.
Tight end is a problem. These other things aren't problems. You had 2 receivers that went for 12 and 21 on your bench. You just didn't play the right people. There's a difference.
DJ Moore had 12 as well. That's fair. I didn't make good decisions. That's not a shocker, but that should be factored in. We've seen this before. I start the wrong people every week because I'm bad at fantasy football.
These are team power rankings, not manager power rankings.
That should be a factor. My dumbness should factor in.
All right, fair enough. I think we've spent enough time on this.
Okay. So number 6, you have Mitchell. Well, I have Mitch. Where do I have Mitch? I have Mitch. Oh, by the way, for everyone that wanted to know where I have myself, it was 9. So remember, Jake had me at 5. Mitch, you have at 6. I have Mitch at 4. I think Mitch's QB situation is solid now with Baker. I like his tight end situation. I don't like it, but it's there. That's really his weakest point. Brown and Samuel at the wide receiver. Mitch could use a flex guy. I like Herbert at running back, but Connor and White seem to have the 1-2 start, which I like. I like White quite a bit. Connor's going to kind of just do some things because Arizona's bad. And then you have Mahomes, which is the second biggest advantage in the league other than having Justin Jefferson. So Mitch is pretty good. Jake is gone, I think, possibly. So I'm just going to keep going. Our technical director is bad at being a technical director, apparently. Anyway. Oh, you're back.
I'm here. Yeah, I have Mitch a little lower. I just don't trust the running backs quite as much as you do. I'm a long-time hater, so that's just the way it goes. I just don't like those running backs, but I've been wrong before on them, and I'd probably be wrong about them again. So for another week, I have Mitch a little bit low. I don't think 6 is a ridiculous ranking for Mitch, but I think it was reasonable.
Well, we also know you hate Mitch, so that factors in as well.
I don't know. It seems like Mitch and Tank Grease have something going on now, so I might be out of that feud.
Well, everyone hates tankers. Anyway, next you have who do you have? I don't know.
I have me.
You have yourself. Oh, well, you're pretty good. Your injuries are scary. I kind of think your QB2 situation is fine. I'm not as sold as your wide receivers as you are. I'm not as sold on your tight end as I think you are, but I like the idea of both your tight ends. They just both scare me because they don't do what they need to do as frequently as they need to do it. Swift getting all the touches in Philadelphia is fantastic, and it took long enough. But Barkley's injury is scary. But yeah, I mean, I had you above where you did as well. I think I had you. Yeah, I had you 5. You had you 7. I think you're really solid, and that will continue.
Yeah, I think I'm solid. I think if Barkley didn't get hurt, I would have had myself probably where you have me. Having to start Zach Moss is a little scary, and I don't know. If I'm Saquon, I'm not playing until I'm actually healthy, since I have a 1-year deal anyway. So I'm thinking there's no way he's playing Thursday, and I wouldn't play next week either. So maybe he's back in 3 weeks. Maybe not. So that's how I see that situation going, and that's what kind of scares me with that. So that's why I had myself at 7. I think my other positions are fine. You always hate on my receivers, but I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think we just look at receivers differently. I think that's been the case for quite a while. Yeah, moving on. You have
I have Tom.
Yeah, you have Big T at 8. I have Big T at 7, so we're right around the same. Tom is a really interesting team. I think you've kind of grown to like Tom more than you had him in the beginning. Um, there's not much more to say that you guys covered last week. Like, he kind of lives and dies by the Packers. His tight end's fine. I don't hate his running back situation. I think one of Tom's biggest weaknesses is going to be figuring out who the heck he starts at QB every week. Having 4 QBs that are kind of similar to in my head is really tough. I think this week they're all projected to score like 15 points. So it's like, pick your matchup and live with it.
Yeah.
I hope Breece Hall carries the ball 25 times this week instead of 4. But I think Tom's got some wide receiver questions. But in the end, yeah, I think this is a fair place to have Tom.
Yeah, I think they're just bringing Breece back slow. I imagine by midseason he'll be back to like 20 carries. I don't know. I think, like you said, choosing which quarterback. I just think choosing all his positions is hard for him. Like, I don't think he has a lot of guys that's just like, all right, this guy's starting every single week. Like, I don't think he's starting Romeo Dobbs every week, or, I mean, maybe Drake London, probably Breece Hall, but like, you're not starting Tyler Algier every single week, and he has like other guys, Aaron Jones, Mostert, Mitchell, Spears. Like, he has a lot of guys, and they're all like in similar ranges for me. So like at every position, I'm just like, I would have like an anxiety attack choosing a lineup every week. But
yeah, and I think in the end, what Tom does or should do, if I like look to move Russ at some point in time, Russ is going to be he's better than my second quarterback. He's probably better than a lot of people's, or at least he gives someone a third quarterback. If Russ stays healthy, move Russ for either draft picks if he's still in tank mode one more year, or go get that wide receiver, go get that running back. That doesn't feel crazy. I mean, I think if you looked at our teams, Tom and I have somewhat of a trade we can make out Russ for some running back. That wouldn't be too crazy. I haven't looked. I was just thinking of a team that had a bunch of running backs. But yeah, no, I like that a lot. And now I had Tom 7, you had him 8. Moving on to who you have at 9, which is Trent.
Yeah, I think this ranking's a little too low, but I also don't know who I put him ahead of. So, but I think he's a very competitive team. This is kind of where I see the drop off starting. I think there's 9 teams that could make the playoffs this year for the most part. Trevor may get in there, maybe not, depending on which way he decides to go. But Tom, what's his name? Trent. Trent has a good team. Andrews is an advantage most weeks. He probably has a receiver advantage most week with Higgins and Hill is a good combo. Trent's problem, as it's always been, is running back. He doesn't really have a running back. Pacheco's probably more of a flex play, and then Bigsby seems like he's not playing at all right now. So he really, if he wants to compete, he really needs to figure out something at running back. Maybe Kareem Hunt comes back and has a job, and that's how he kind of solves that problem. But I think he has some picks, so if you want to go get a running back, you probably could. But until he does that, this is kind of where he'll rank for me.
Yeah, I mean, his QB situations, his QB1 situation is great. His QB2 situation is a little questionable. I really like all his wide receivers. I mean, not only Higgins and, Hill, but you have Williams, you have Dotson, you have McLaurin. You're in pretty good shape there. I think he was maybe banking on Sam Howell not being very good and Jacoby Brissett becoming a starting quarterback again. Andrews, like you said, is an advantage, but that running back situation is so scary bad. Like it might be the weakest room of any team in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had Trent one spot above you. You had him 9. I had him 8. And we can move on to your number 10 pick, which is Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor is my 10th pick. I think he's been more competitive than the other 2 teams so far. I think he has an okay running back. I think I like his receivers a lot. He has 2 pretty good tight ends, even though they seem to not get as many points as you would expect for both of them. And then Puka being his flex is pretty good, apparently. Who would have thought? I definitely didn't think. He really needs a second quarterback. He does have 2 first-round picks in this draft. Given one of them's his skull caps, and we all know what skull caps pick is. So that is what it is. But maybe he goes out and gets a quarterback. Maybe him and Tom have some kind of deal. Tom has 4 quarterbacks. Trevor has literally 1. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. But I think Trevor, there's definitely potential for him to get back into things. It's just whether he wants to do that or. I think his team's hard to sell though, just because he has a lot of like young receivers that aren't super. I don't think he wants to trade, so I don't know how he starts selling. So maybe he's a buyer, and then he'll probably jump in the rankings for me.
So Trevor is getting to the point where I'm ready to award him like the Game of Thrones award. He's the Game of Thrones team. Game of Thrones you watched, it started off like pretty good. Like season 1, pretty good. Trevor season 1 was pretty good. It hits its peak right at that like red wedding, everything's going crazy. Trevor wins the championship. And it declines real hard after that. And like it just ends really poorly. So it's like Trevor's time to not have the last seasons of Game of Thrones right now. He either needs to tank or get better, because I don't think he can sit where he is. And I think that goes for my team as well. Like it's not just him. Luckily for me, I can't have the Game of Thrones awards because I've never had a peak like he has. Anyway, that's where I'm sitting with him right now. Like you can't sit still. You either have to go for it or not go for it. And in 2 weeks' time, when you're 0-4 or 2-2, that's when that decision's kind of made.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just how I think that's similar boat that you are. But I thought it was pretty clever of myself to think of it that way. And I had Trevor at 11. You had him at 10. So now you had Danny at 11. I had Danny at 10 because Danny is my boy. And, you know, Danny's team is interesting. His running back 2 situation is tough. Him picking a wide receiver is kind of tough. And then, I like his QB situation as long as Tannehill's playing okay. But Danny's still young and figuring things out. Danny, I think, could be really great if he could move some of those young wide receivers for something. He just has so many young wide receivers that are around, similar to Tom. Like, who the heck do you start? Do you start Pickens? Do you start Nick Jigba? Do you start Addison? Like, who the heck is scoring the touchdown this week that you start them? And I don't know what their value is. I mean, like, I like all those guys, but I don't know what I'd give up to get them.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he has a lot of waiting game kind of receivers with tons of potential. They all have tons of potential. Like, you didn't even bring up, like, he has Christian Watson, who hasn't played all year and was awesome last year. And running back's really tough. I think somehow, I don't know how he wants to go, but if he gets a running back too, like Pollard's shown that he is a running back 1 for sure right now. But I look at his team. I don't know if he's really in a buying mode. I just don't trust his quarterbacks to be special enough or have the upside to really win you weeks, which is kind of what you need. Bryce Young, I like a lot, but those weapons are awful. So I just can't imagine he's going to be super relevant in fantasy for this year at least. But that's how I kind of see Danny's team. It's moving along. He has very different rebuild than Biondi. Biondi has like this like boom of a rebuild and then it might fall off. And I think Danny's kind of building slowly. So that's just how he's decided to build this, and I think he's probably another year away. But I think he could be really good next year. Similar kind of explosion that Biondi took.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Really, Danny is just like 1 or 2 of those wide receivers away from like those guys just take that next step. Pickens had 22 this week. If Pickens can like consistently do that, Devonta had to get like Danny is right on the cusp of being really a threat to everyone in this league. And that's not saying I think he's in much better shape this year than he was last year. And moving on, we'll handle Lamb Chop for just a second here. We've talked about his team a little bit. His team is worse than the noise his air conditioner was putting out 20 minutes ago in this video. That is apparently what happened. By the way, I'm not really gonna. I've talked about his team. When Cup comes back, like I think it's fine. I think it's solid. I think he's actually probably better than Danny and Trevor at that point, possibly. I have more faith in his QBs to do better. I think Cup and Hopkins is fine. I like his RB situation, at least his starting two, and maybe Kyren Williams is, or maybe I mean he should be starting this week. He looked great last week. And right now he has him on his bench. I don't know what he does with that. But, yeah, I mean, I think Lemon is not too bad, but missing Cup is killing him. And Burrow not putting up 20 a game like he should be is killing him.
Yeah, so I think the Bengals made a mistake. I think Burrow's still kind of hurt. And I think if he had rested those 2 weeks and then he came back the third week full go, and now he's just kind of hurt again. So that's kind of why I'm more skeptical on Lamb Chop's team in general. And then Cup's injury is just weird. Like I don't know when he's coming back. Like he's on IR, but they didn't say he was coming back right after the 4 weeks. So is he coming back week 5 or is he coming back like week 8? I have no idea. And he's just kind of he really needs, like, Burrow and Cup carried his team like through that
Mhm.
whole like period where he was making the playoffs. So like
Yeah.
with you're seeing what his team looks like without those guys. And like you said, Kieran Williams has stepped up a lot. It's been on the bench, but that's some help. But he needs a lot more than that if he wants to be competitive. So he really needs those two guys to get healthy, and then we'll see where he's at.
Okay. Let's go on to week 6 previews. I've already scrolled down a little bit and I've been chuckling at Jake for the last little while here. So, stalworth is not a word. It's
Is it not
stalwart.
Stallworth?
It's stalwart.
Stall.
It's WART, not worth. Um,
That's
and
okay.
also Taint being the stalwart of the division is a little interesting because that means like the older and more reliable person. He is the newest person in the league. But anyway, I've been chuckling
It's
to
on the
myself.
same team now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fine. So obviously the game of the week is Cam versus Taint. In case that was not clear to everyone, I think this game is, as you kind of outlined here. Cam has the advantage at running back. I think Cam has the advantage at quarterback. It doesn't seem like Demont's going to play, at least when we're doing this. And I don't know where Tank goes as RB2. And I think the receiver matchup is pretty close. So I am going Cam.
Very interesting. Yeah, I just don't know where he's going with running back right now. I mean, Demont's projected for points. That's a little weird. I don't know how he could project what he does at running back because he doesn't really have one right now. Kentry Miller probably plays this week, and it seems like Jamal is out, so maybe that's just a plug and play. I don't really hate that. I kind of like that anyway. He probably still loses at running back, but maybe that closes the gap a little bit. If Burrow doesn't play, that hurts Jamar a lot. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Cam as well.
Yeah, I don't think this is the week for Taint to have this battle. I think this is tough. And that's tough on the league, but it shows how competitive this league is. Taint being one of the best teams in the league is now going to be possibly 1-2 after this week, and that's really tough. But anyway, moving on to game 2, you have myself versus Mitchell. You have a 2-0 team in Mitch versus a 0-2 team in me. As of right now, this is actually, I think, the closest game. We're both like 50% on Sleeper. I don't know about Mitch, but I haven't even looked at my lineup necessarily. I think QB-wise, you have to give Mitch the advantage with Baker and Mahomes. And who knows, maybe Josh Dobbs gets the start this week. Probably not. I think the flex position, I choose myself, one of those running backs over Mitch is going to have to go wide receiver, so I just always pick running back. I think the tight end position could very easily have a score of 2, like, total between both tight ends. Whichever tight end scores a touchdown is probably going to win that matchup, assuming one of them even does. Wide receiver, I think, is pretty close, but that could go either way. But you assume that Jefferson maybe puts me just a little bit over the top there. And running back, I think I think on paper you pick me, but in reality, Mitch has been the team to pick. Running back, I think this week is going to be decided by which running backs I start. I'm either going to win by starting well or lose by starting poorly, and it's going to be my fault.
I agree with that. I think this game probably comes down to your decisions. Zach Ertz has 18 targets, just so you know. How amazing is that? That he's like 55 years old and still gets targets. I don't know how he does it, but I'd probably give him the advantage somehow over Fryermuth. I think I'd give you the advantage at receiver and running back if you start the right ones. But I don't think you will start the right ones, so I'm going to pick Mitch.
Oh, I don't know if I said, but I'm also picking Mitch.
So it's two Mitches.
Yes, so far it's two Cams, two Mitches. And then we go into the Jake versus Trevor matchup. This one is kind of interesting in the sense that, like, poor Trevor's going to go 0-3. Even with your running back woes, like, I think I give Trevor the advantage at running back but not by all that much. But I think you have the easy advantage almost anywhere else. I don't know what's going to happen with Trevor's receivers. Waddle and Wilson maybe don't play this week. It seems like Wilson's going to, but I don't think Waddle is. Tight end is pretty even for me, but as great as Puka is, he's being a super flex is fine. Trevor doesn't have another flex position. This feels like Trevor doesn't have enough front to back to beat you, so I'm picking you this week.
Yeah, I had this game a little different just because I think Minshew probably starts this week. So that gives Trevor two quarterbacks and puts Puka instead of Gus Edwards. So I saw it as pretty close. Assuming all that happens, I would pick Trevor, probably. I think his matchups are pretty good. Miami's pretty bad against the run. I think Waddle plays. It's really hard to predict this game just because I don't know who's going to actually play. I don't know if Ayuk's playing. I don't know if Waddle's playing. I don't know who ends up playing in this game. But I'm going to be different. I'll pick Trevor.
Okay. Next game we have Tom versus Sean. Explain to me why this is called the Watch Jake Lose game.
I think I forgot to rename this one, and I think this was last week's.
Okay.
It's last week.
I was like, I don't understand the naming. Like the rest of them, I got the naming. This one, I did not.
Penn State.
Anyway, I'm not going to touch on this game too much. Even with Eckler probably not playing, I'm going to give Sean the advantage. He's just too good top to bottom. But if Breece Hall gets the carries that I hope he does and Aaron Jones plays and Mostert gets the touches he's been getting, this can easily become a game. But Kelsey's kind of back into the swing of things. Sean has the advantage at QB. McCaffrey is the best player on the field. And, wide receivers got to go to Sean. So, sorry, Tommy boy. We can watch the games together. Not really, possibly the end of Thursday night's game, because I will see you there.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much to talk about. Even with the injuries, he probably still wins at every position, maybe. Depending, I mean, I think Amon-Ra may not play. I think he has like turf toe or something, so I assume he might be out. So maybe that changes things, but I still think, I mean, Mike Evans just slots in there. So I don't know, just really tough. I think Sean still has the advantage pretty much everywhere. So that's what I'm gonna go with. On to the last game, Biondi versus No Pawns. I think this could become a game pretty easily. It doesn't project out to be a game, but I think if Roshan ends up in the end zone, it becomes a game pretty quickly. And then it really comes down to whether Danny's receivers, he could choose the right receivers. Some of his receivers are going to score touchdowns this week. Can he pick which ones are going to score the touchdowns? This becomes a big game. I know Nico Collins has been going bananas. I don't know if that continues or not. I guess you have to start him at this point. I think he's like receiver 9 or 7 or something like that right now. But I don't trust Ritter. I'm just gonna go for the upset. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna go with Danny. probably a bad idea, but I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't disagree with you in many of it. I think I have the issue that Tannehill has to play Cleveland, which I don't love for him, while Deshaun gets to play Tennessee, which I do love for him. Bijan is at Detroit, which is kind of interesting. Like I like the matchups Biondi has, and you're right. It really comes down to whether or not Danny picks the right people, similar that we've said before. But if Richardson doesn't play, I don't trust Ritter either. Adams is in protocol. I haven't heard an update about him. So if Biondi runs into injury problems, this could very easily become a game. And I think even if he doesn't, like you said, I think if Danny picks the right players, this is a game. But I think Biondi's got a little bit too much. Even with some of these question marks right now, I think the running back situation Biondi's got going on is just too good. And then, like you said, Nico is I think wide receiver 7. Biondi's got Hawkins, which is a huge advantage. And then I think Olave is just like a solid, he's getting 6 to 7 catches. Like that's just what he's going to do, whether or not he falls into the end zone. So I'm going to pick Biondi.
Okay.
Moving
on to the last game.
Even though you called the last one the last game. So we have Lamon versus Trent. This one, again, there's not like too much to talk about, I guess. These are two of the more questionable teams. I guess Burrow maybe plays, maybe he doesn't. But, I think the running back situation for Lamon is way better than Trent's. The wide receiver situation for Trent is way better than Lamon. I think Lamon needs to get Gallup out of there very quickly. Maybe he slots Lazard in there so that Williams plays flex. Robert Woods has weirdly looked pretty good. He's got guys that he needs to slot in there, maybe at the wide receiver for Gallup, because Gallup is just not really looked great. Mingo got into the end zone last week. Maybe it's him. Or did he? Oh, I guess he didn't get into the end zone, but he had a whole bunch of targets and had, I think, like 100 yards. So I actually think that T. Higgins will not score 2 touchdowns this week. Mac Jones will play a Jets team that has some motivation on the defensive end. And Tank Bigsby maybe gives you another 0. As much as I love Tank Bigsby, and I think he will be great, I just, when you have the starter and then the backup playing each other, I am going upset this week. I am picking Lamon to beat Trent.
All right. I'm going to go with Trent. I think the receivers and tight end will just be a little too much. Josh Allen, I don't think Burrow plays really. So maybe T. Higgins also doesn't play, but then you just play Terry or whoever you want from all of his guys. So yeah, I don't know. It's actually a tough game just because I think Trent's team's pretty volatile. I could see them scoring like 60 points, or I could see them scoring 120 points. So that's just how I see this game. But I think overall he has a better team, so I'll just go with Trent.
Yeah, and I mean, we both picked one upset that I don't think, that the other didn't at least. And it should be an interesting week. So I invited Mitch and Lyman to this today after Mitch complained he had never been invited to it before. Lyman, who had also been asking to be on it, then came on with a broken air conditioning. So maybe this is why we don't have guests. We try and do nice things. Cam did like a serviceable job pretending to be me last week. He at least had brought some personality to this because we know you don't. Maybe Cam and I should just do this because that'd be a good show. But anyway, I think we've had it for week 3. And I think we can call it there.
Yep, sounds good.